The Annunciation to Saint Joseph. The Blessed Virgin Mary was heartbroken to see Joseph so wounded by this. She prayed to God to take pity on Joseph, to enlighten him, to ease his suffering. So, being full of mercy and love, the Lord sent the Archangel Gabriel once again to deliver a message. A reading from the Gospel of St. Luke, chapter 1, verse 20 to 22. But while he thought on these things, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in his sleep, saying, Joseph, son of David, fear not to take unto thee Mary thy wife, for that which is conceived in her is of the Holy Ghost. She will bear a son, and you will call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. There are some who are perplexed as to why this great announcement to Saint Joseph took place while he was sleeping, rather than while he was awake. The reasons for this are given by Venerable Maria d'Agreda. The first reason is, since Joseph was so prudent and filled with heavenly light, that it was not necessary to convince him by strong evidence to assure him of Mary's dignity and of the mysteries of the Incarnation. The second reason is, because his trouble had its beginning in seeing with his open eyes the pregnancy of his spouse, that they, having given occasion for suspicion, should be closed in order to see the angelic vision. The third reason is that it was befitting for the angel to deliver this message to him at a time when his senses, which had been scandalized to the point of grief, were suspended, that Joseph be in a state of peace and tranquility of spirit. Joseph had his own annunciation in which his anxieties were put at ease as the angel calmed him and told him to have no fear in keeping Mary as his spouse. The Virgin's divine pregnancy and the importance of this child were explained to him as well. Joseph was bestowed with the high honor of not only naming the boy Jesus, which means God saves, but also raising the Son of the Most High as his own son. With these revelations and instructions, the Lord revealed to Joseph that he was indeed worthy for such an important role as being father to the Son of God and spouse of the Mother of God. Joseph was to assume the legitimate rights and position of true father and true husband. God wanted him specifically, not the wealthy man on the hill, not the noble warrior, but the humble carpenter of the line of David. And Joseph awoke from his sleep and did as the angel of the Lord commanded him and took Mary as his wife. Matthew chapter 1 verse 24. In the Old Testament there is a similar story to that of the Annunciation to Saint Joseph, involving the highly revered forefather Abraham. The message is similar, but the circumstances are different. Abraham is told that his 90-year-old wife will conceive and bear a child in her old age, who was to become the great man Isaac. Also, in the New Testament, the messenger Gabriel is sent to Zechariah to announce that his elderly wife, Elizabeth, will bear a son to be named John, the cousin of Jesus. Both Abraham and Zechariah place doubt in the messages given to them, whereas Joseph believes the angel completely. Just as unlikely that those who are elderly and barren would conceive and bear children, so too did it seem impossible for a virgin to conceive. However, unlike Father Abraham, who laughed at the notion, and Zechariah, who doubted, Joseph humbly accepted the divine message that was given to him. He may not have understood completely how this was to be, but for him it did not matter. What mattered was his complete trust in the words of the angel and his surrender to the divine will. You shall therefore impress these words of mine on your heart and on your soul, and you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontals on your forehead. Deuteronomy 11:18. As soon as the dream was over, Joseph got up and went to Mary to tell her the news. God had not abandoned him after all. By getting up and acting as he did, St. Joseph had given his fiat, his yes, to cooperating in God's mission, just as the Blessed Virgin Mary had done. By doing this, St. Joseph's mental anguish and spiritual wounds were healed, and his confidence fully mended as he became part of God's redemptive plan. Pope Benedict XVI shares with us, Joseph teaches us that it is possible to love without possessing. In contemplating Joseph, all men and women can, by God's grace, come to experience healing from their emotional wounds, if only they embrace the plan that God has begun to bring about in those close to him, just as Joseph entered the work of redemption through Mary, and because of what God had already done in her.